Dear friend, if you spent a decade working hard to buy a piece of land to build a house, what would you expect? A heater, a place to live to start a new life. Right, but for the landowner in Ba Dai, that dream quickly turned into a nightmare. On the first day of construction, the construction team was shocked to discover a woman's body with her limbs cut off and rotting under the house's foundation. She was wearing a red dress, with roots stuffed in her mouth. A sign of a brutal murder. The police immediately got involved. But the more they investigated, the more mysteries they discovered. A bride missing before her wedding day, a family that had been silent for 5 years, and an unexpected culprit who was living very close by. Follow the story below to learn the terrifying secret behind this seemingly harmless piece of land. Please like, share and subscribe to the channel to support and not miss the next shocking cases. The morning of August 17, 2020, Ba Dai was foggy but hot. Mr. Nguyen Thi Thanh, 35 years old, a construction engineer, had just bought a plot of land of more than 90 square meters on Nguyen Van Siu Street after many years of saving that morning. A team of 4 workers began digging the foundation for his dream house. Thanh stood there, watching the excavator dig up each layer of soil. Excited, he bought this piece of land from a middle-aged woman named Nguyen Thi Thanh, who had sold it in a hurry to follow her child to settle in Canada. The price was 15% cheaper than the area, so he considered it a godsend. At around 10:15, the sound of construction workers screaming came from a deep corner of the land. Thanh was surprised. There was something that looked like human bones. Thanh quickly ran over. His eyes stared down into the hole less than a meter deep. A piece of arm bone was clearly visible, pitch black, with the rotten blue nylon rope still intact. Next, pieces of dark red cloth like a skirt were also dug up from the soil. The whole team stood still. A strong stench rose up. The stench of poison. Trembling, Thanh took out his phone and called the police. 10:45 p.m. Ba Dai City Police coordinated with Kim Dinh Ward Police to block off the scene. Criminal police, forensics and criminal technical forces were dispatched. Lieutenant Colonel Pham Quoc Duy, deputy head of the criminal investigation team, directly directed the investigation. After nearly 2 hours of work, in a 1 square meter deep hole, the authorities discovered the body of a woman, with her arms and legs cut off, a stick stuffed in her mouth, and a crushed skull. Around the body were a pair of high heels, a rotten women's leather wallet and a gold necklace. The initial forensic conclusion: the victim died 4 to 6 years ago, most likely due to traumatic brain injury due to a strong impact. The position of the body showed that the victim was murdered, not a suicide or an accident. The burial site was dug by hand. Very rough. The killer wanted to hide the body quickly. A forensic officer whispered, she was wearing a red dress, like she was going to a party, or getting married. Lieutenant Colonel Duy made a note in his notebook. He looked around the land, then turned to the technical team. Look for any missing person records in this area that matched from 2015 to 2016. No one knew that a disappearance that had caused a stir in Kim Dinh Ward 5 years ago was about to be dug up along with this piece of red dress. On August 18, 2020, early the next morning, in the small meeting room of the criminal investigation team, Lieutenant Colonel Pham Quoc Duy reviewed the files of disappearances from 2015 to 2016. A series of names were checked, but only one case stood out with many matching details. Nguyen Thi Thanh Huyen, born in 1992, went missing on September 18, 2015, just a few hours before her wedding according to records. Huyen used to live with her mother on Hung Vong Street, Kim Dinh Ward. She worked at a spa and had a gentle personality. Her future husband is Pham Van Khai, born in 1987, the only son of the owners of a large jewelry store in the area. The wedding is scheduled to take place at 5 p.m. on September 18, 2015, but at 2 p.m. that same day, the bride Huyen suddenly disappeared after going out to adjust her wedding dress. No one has been able to find Huyen since that day. The family reported to the police, searched everywhere, offered a reward, and circulated flyers. But there was no trace. After 3 months, the case was changed to an unidentified missing person. Strangely, Kai's family, the groom's family, quickly cleaned up the wedding, closed the gold shop, and moved to another place. A few months later, Huyen's mother, Mrs. Nguyen Thi Mai remained behind, living quietly like a shadow. At 10 a.m. on August 18, 2020, Lieutenant Colonel Dewey and investigator Nguyen Thi Huyen went to see Mrs. Mai to inform her about the discovery of the body. Mrs. Mai was over 60, with white hair, living alone in an old, dilapidated house. She was shocked when she heard the news. The uncles said my son was dead. She trembled and tears welled up. I have been waiting for him for 5 years. I thought he was tricked into going to Cambodia or something. But I didn't expect him to be buried right here. Dewey showed her the image of the gold necklace recovered with the body. She nodded with emotion. It was his. After his birthday I bought 5 Huyen round 20. Bought 5 Huyen round 20. That same afternoon, the police cordoned off the land where Huyen was found buried. A maddening coincidence. That land was previously owned by the family of her future husband, Mr. Pham Van Khai's father. They sold it back in 2018, 3 years after moving away. That is, if the victim was murdered and buried in 2015 at that time. The land was still owned by the groom's family. This made Lieutenant Colonel Dewey raise a series of questions. Did the groom's family know something about the death? Why did they sell the land cheaply and leave so quickly after the failed wedding? Something had been deliberately hidden for 5 years. That same night, a summons was issued for Pham Van Khai. According to information from the residential management, Khai was currently living in Ho Chi Minh City, working as a car salesman. A bride disappeared, a wedding was cancelled, a body under the house foundation, and now all the silence was thrown into disarray. At 9 a.m. on August 19, 2020, the car with license plate 59 rolled to a stop in front of the Ba Dai City Police Department. Pham Van Khai, the man who had walked alongside Nguyen Thi Thanh Huyen in their wedding photos 5 years ago, stepped down, his face stern. Khai was 33 years old, neatly dressed, with white skin and a scholarly appearance. But his eyes were somewhat evasive. In the office on the second floor, the head of the criminal investigation team, Lieutenant Colonel Pham Quoc Dewey, placed a file of crime scene photos in front of Khai. Mr. Khai, this female body was discovered on the land your family used to own before 2018. According to initial verification, it is very likely that it is Ms. Nguyen Thi Thanh Huyen, your fiancé, who went missing in 2015. Do you have anything to declare? Khai paused for a few seconds, then shook his head. I really don't know anything. I still don't understand Huyen's disappearance. At that time, I kept calling, looking everywhere, and then my family thought she ran away, so they cancelled the wedding. Did you know that she was tied up? Had her mouth stuffed and was buried right on your property? Khai was broken. Dewey did not give him time to recover. Continued investigation. According to the investigation, Huyen left home at 2 p.m. to go to the wedding dress shop, but never arrived. A nearby resident's camera recorded a red scooter carrying her out of the alley. The driver was a man wearing a white shirt. Do you know who had a red scooter at that time? I did, but at that time my friend borrowed it. I lent it to a man named Long. Long was an old classmate. He came over occasionally. Immediately, investigator Nguyen Thi Huyen stood up, quietly noted down Pham Hoang Long. Contact for verification immediately. Standing up, quietly noted down Pham Hoang Long. Contact for verification immediately. At 11:30 a.m. the same day, the detective team approached the address of Pham Hoang Long's uncle, who is currently a motorbike repairman, temporarily retracted in Thang In Hat Ward, City. Vung Tau. Long has no criminal record, but his statement is vague. When asked about the red scooter borrowed from Khai on September 18, 2015, Long was confused. I borrowed the scooter, but that day I took it to be repaired. I had nothing to do with it. The answer is unconvincing. On the afternoon of August 19, 2020, the results of the examination from the Provincial Forensic Center were sent back. The DNA of the body matched the hair sample of Nguyen Thi Mai, 100% confirming that the victim was Nguyen Thi Thanh Huyen. The red paint found on the plastic bag wrapped around the victim was the same type of plastic paint used for the 2014 E-Plat scooter. At the same time, the technical report from the forensic team revealed an unusual point: the victim's skull had a circular indentation, about 3.5 centimeters in diameter, consistent with a hard object such as a hammer handle or an iron shovel handle. The angle of the blow suggested that the perpetrator attacked from behind. when the victim was off guard. The chain of events quickly formed a new line of investigation. The victim was dragged out of the house, possibly acquainted with the perpetrator, murdered by a heavy object, then had his hands and feet severed, roots stuffed into his mouth, and he quickly escaped. The perpetrator had access to the land owned by Kai's family or had a key to open the gate. At that time the land still had a temporary fence at 8 p.m. that same day. At the police station, after 6 hours of psychological struggle, Pham Van Khai began to change his testimony. He admitted, "Huyen and I had a big argument that day. I found out she had been texting her ex-boyfriend. I was angry, but I didn't kill her. I just called Long to take Huyen somewhere to humiliate her. I didn't expect it." The sentence stopped. His face paled. Lieutenant Colonel Dewey tightened his grip on the pen. He didn't expect it or didn't dare to admit it. He thought 5 years of hiding underground would bury all his sins. Khai was silent. In the hallway, a young detective ran in, handing over a newly printed photo album. A photo taken from a camera in a residential area near the scene. On the afternoon of September 18, 2015, a man wearing a white shirt, his face blurry but his figure somewhat resembling Pham Van Khai, was pushing a cart containing large sacks out of the house. On August 20, 2020, a blurry photo from an old security camera was one of the few pieces of evidence remaining after 5 years. Although the resolution was low, the tall, thin figure and bow legs were unmistakable features. Investigator Nguyen Thi Thanh Huyen sketched the image again, then compared it with Pham Hoang Long, the friend who was said to have borrowed the car on the day of the murder. Surprisingly, the appearance was 90% similar to Long, not Khai. At 10 a.m., the detective team returned to Long's house again, this time with an emergency search warrant. The small house was in a mess, with oil everywhere. After more than 40 minutes of searching, they discovered it. An old Nokia phone with a broken screen, hidden carefully behind the old tiles behind the house. The data recovered contained the last 6 messages, one of which had the content: "Remember to threaten. Don't do anything reckless. I don't want to get involved." The message was sent from a phone number belonging to Pham Van Khai. Connecting the clues, the investigation team temporarily detained Long, under pressure to confront the witnesses. Long bowed his head and confessed everything that day. "I only intended to take Huyen to the vacant lot, to threaten her not to embarrass Khai." But Huyen argued back, saying she would cancel the wedding, accusing Khai of beating her. "I lost control. I took the handle of a shovel and hit her, then ran away. I was scared, so scared." "Did Khai know at that time?" Lieutenant Colonel Dewey asked directly. "Long used me. No, he just wanted me to talk gently. I didn't dare say anything after that, but I knew if I told the truth, both me and her were finished." Afternoon of August 20th, when confronted with Long's testimony, Pham Van Khai collapsed. "I didn't want Huyen to die. I loved her, but I was ashamed. I was under family pressure. When I heard Long finish speaking, I understood, but I didn't dare report to the police. I let the truth sink in. And then the people who sold the land left Mrs. Deep, trying to forget her. Yes. My father did not want to get involved. He said, 'If he is dead, leave him alone. If you speak, your whole family will die with you.' I lived like a prisoner every day." On the same day, the order to prosecute and temporarily detain Pham Hoang Long for murder was issued, while Pham Van Khai was prosecuted for failing to report a crime at 9 p.m. in the office. Lieutenant Colonel Dewey was looking at the investigation board. His colleague asked, "Is this case considered over?" Dewey shook his head. "No, I still wondered one thing. How did Long know that Ms. Huyen would come out at that time? At that place? Did someone arrange it?" The investigation could not stop. Early in the morning of August 21, 2020, the sky was gloomy, heavy with moisture. In the Criminal Investigation Team's office, Lieutenant Colonel Pham Quoc Dewey had not left his desk since last night. Something was wrong. The case seemed to have been closed when the direct perpetrator Pham Hoang Long confessed, and the person who covered it up, Pham Van Khai, bowed his head. No money, no power, yet he dared to take the daughter of a wealthy family to an empty lot, assault her, and then hide her body right on the land owned by Khai's family without fear of being discovered. Who was behind this and helped him cover up all traces for 5 years? At 9 a.m., a reconnaissance team was sent to Phuc Trung Ward to invite Mr. Pham Van Loy, the biological father of Pham Van Khai, To work. Interrogation room. 10:15 a.m. Mr. Loy, 64 years old. Short, dark skin, thin silver hair. Used to be a famous construction team leader in Bar Dai. He was more knowledgeable about geology than anyone else. When asked about the process of selling the land, he answered in a calm voice, "I sold that piece of land in 2018. Because I didn't see any use for it. Why are you asking so much?" Lieutenant Colonel Dewey showed two pictures. One was a photo of the scene where the body was found in 2020. The other was a drawing of the underground drainage diagram of the construction project he was in charge of in 2015. Taken from the permit application for repairing the fence of the land. He repaired the fence in October 2015, just 2 weeks after Huyen went missing. Strangely, he did not build a tight fence, but only relaid the cement floor at the exact location where the body was found. What happened? Mr. Loy was silent for a moment, then said, "It was me. I suspected something was wrong. That day, Kai came home with a pale face. I asked him. He cried. He said he had accidentally done it. I thought he only caused injury. But then I went to the back of the land to see and saw a new island mark. And a wheel mark. I opened it and saw a sack. But I didn't dare to look. There was a body, but I didn't report it to the police. Mr. Loy is near. I witnessed him. I was in prison for 15 years for manslaughter. Our family has been broken since then. I don't want my child to go down that road. I poured concrete again. I paved the ground. I just want to bury this story with that land that same afternoon." Mr. Loy's testimony stunned the investigation team. The case was no longer a murder and hiding of the body, but a long and organized series of crimes. Additional charges were added. Pham Van Loy, concealing a crime, destroying evidence. Pham Van Khai, failing to report a crime. Indirect accomplice Pham Hoang Long, murder, violation of corpses and graves. Lieutenant Colonel Dewey folded the file. Slowly. No death is silent. Conscience will always be a living witness for the rest of one's life. On August 22, 2020, the police held an official press conference. The entire investigation process was transparently announced to the press. Locals, who had been in an uproar since the body was found, were now even more shocked to learn that the victim's family and the perpetrator had been preparing to get married. A tragedy buried by honor, pride and the indifference of adults. August 25, 2020, Bar Diem City People's Cemetery. The late August drizzle fell lightly. No one said anything. There was only the steady sound of the police officers burying the body of the ugly girl Nguyen Thi Huyen. After nearly 5 years of lying silently on the cold ground, nameless, without a gravestone, Mrs. Mai, Huyen's mother, knelt beside the small coffin, her face haggard, her hands trembling as she placed her daughter's photo next to my child. Finally being called by her correct name. In the days that followed, public opinion was in an uproar. The whole province of Mrs. Dai seemed to be shaken by the series of tragedies that the case revealed. A young girl was murdered not because of hatred, but because of the selfishness, vanity and cowardice of those who were once closest to her. A father, Mr. Pham Van Loy, who was once respected for his moral life, chose to hide his crime just to protect his family's good name. A young man killed someone because he thought he had someone backing him up. But in the end he bowed his head and accepted the death sentence at the age of 30. The judge came late, but he was not absent. In the discussion after the case, Lieutenant Colonel Pham Quoc Dewey spoke to law students. The police can solve cases with their expertise, but in some cases the truth only comes out when the perpetrator can no longer bear the pressure of his own conscience. If a denunciation had been made in 2015, the girl might not have had to lie underground for nearly half a decade. If the father dared to face the truth, his son could have been lenient with the law. But they chose to remain silent. And that silence is more poisonous than the crime. Lessons to be learned. 1. Love is not a reason to cover up wrongdoing. 2. Honor cannot be built on the blood and tears of innocent people. 3. Murderers will be punished by the law. But those who remain silent when they know the truth must also be held responsible. The story has ended here, but the pain remains for those who remain. If you find this story worthy of spreading as a warning lesson, please subscribe to the channel to read the next crime-solving stories. Like the video if you sympathize. Comment your thoughts below. What would you do if you were a witness like Mr. Loy? Share to spread the message. Silence is not golden, but sometimes complicity with crime. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and see you again.